Welcome everyone to today's session. Sorry we are starting a little bit late. We have with us Thomas, Mutian, Temi, and Michael Jerry. Thomas will be taking us on introductory aspect of smart chain and smart contracts, and then Michael will be taking us on NFTs. I believe everyone has heard a thing or two about NFTs, and we all know how NFTs is making the buzz all around the blockchain space and all that. So, and after we'll have Thomas as the first speaker, and then Michael will be the second speaker, and afterwards we will drop a Google form so that everyone can fill it up. We have just 3 questions today, so you just answer the 3 questions. There's a link there for you to join Telegram Africa, and there is also a link for you to just input the name of the person that invited you, how you were invited to the call or to the session rather. So you fill up the form and submit it, and then we'll contact the winners. Between, we are using a site that generates numbers randomly, so the draws for the winners will kind of be a random thing. So it's not like it's now time-based. It's going to be random from the site. The site is going to just pick out the winners, so you don't need to rush. Just take your time and fill up the form, and then everyone has a bold chance. So let me welcome Thomas to come and take us for his long, which is based on smart contract, introductory aspects of smart contracts. Welcome everyone, Thomas.
Okay. Hello. I hope you are all well. Thank you for having me on this lovely Saturday. So, as Young mentioned, I will be talking about smart contracts and exactly how to deploy software or use blockchain technology to make your applications or services and all that good stuff. Let me just share my screen, so at least I can give you a better idea of how this conversation will go. And of course, I'll get into how smart contracts come into play. So I think the fairest place for me to begin is from a normal place of understanding for all of us. Like I'll give a good example of this platform we are using. For example, Zoom. All of us are using Zoom. Right now we are connected to Zoom. Zoom is a service that runs on the internet, and it allows for online meetings like this to happen. We have other services. You might have Facebook, and so on and so forth. So as these services exist currently, they are termed as traditional computing type of services. So like in traditional computing type of services, for example, Zoom, you might have another one you like, Facebook, YouTube, and so on and so forth. If you've ever made any application on the internet, chances are very high you've used this sort of method and philosophy. So traditional computing, for example, which Zoom uses, Facebook uses, and YouTube uses, they work on the basis of that they exist in a central sort of place. This is why you can hear terms like Facebook servers, YouTube servers, and so on and so forth. From your understanding, if the servers are down, I can't reach YouTube. If the servers are down, I can't reach Facebook. So there are of course other deeper things that are in the works to make these traditional type of services run. Like for example, if you want to go to Zoom, you type zoom.com or something in your web browser. So the underlying protocol here, or the underlying way in which from your computer you are connected to Zoom, is something we call the HTTP protocol. This forms actually part of the TCP stack, but you do not have to worry about that. The takeaway from all these drawings I'm doing is that every service, normal services, exist under a model we call traditional computing, where we have servers located in certain locations and so on and so forth. There are other things that work behind the scenes, but the basis is that traditional computing just includes stuff like servers and so on and so forth. Of course, there are other models that come into play They are like hybrid models and stuff like this. So you might have, the traditional service that I mentioned. You access items on a server, but nowadays people are coming up with what we call cloud computing, whereby maybe if you are making your application, you are trying, your idea, whatever idea you want, you have. For example, some of you might want to make a chat platform, to help you make money. Maybe you sell certain goods and so on. Chances are very high you'll make it and put it on your cPanel, put it on a web somewhere, someone accesses a link or visits, using a mobile application. So you are using traditional computing. If you go a step higher, then you can find something we call cloud service, whereby we have services like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud. We have other items like Linode and so on and so forth. So basically, they all function in that particular manner, whereby everything is central. Facebook is central. Everyone in the world is connecting to Facebook. You and I, all of us here are connecting to Zoom. Zoom is somewhere housed. If it goes down, we can no longer connect. So the reason I spoke about that is because I want to introduce or to talk about what is coming up of late, blockchain technology, whereby, of course, blockchain technology takes a different step towards allowing people to run, applications, services, and so on the web. Whereas traditional computing has central servers, everyone connects to them. Blockchain computing has multiple, we can call them multiple servers, multiple data centers, and so on. There's someone's mic making noise. Just please check so that you don't, at least, I don't have to mute you and so on and so forth. Yeah. So in blockchain technology, there are many people participating. There are many, mini servers. For example, if Facebook or Zoom was to run on a blockchain, it would cease to be called like the Zoom server. It would be something like the Zoom chain. And here is where services run by, multiple people are hosting them. Multiple people are storing that information. For example, like Bitcoin. I'll give you, this is a very popular one. Bitcoin is a blockchain technology whereby validators participate and, share your computer or your computing power to allow for, other people to store items there like files, logic, and so on and so forth. So as this technology matures, whereby people are trying to move away from using central servers because of the risks that are involved in central servers, having something central in one place. I'll give you a good example. For example, if you make your application right now, it can be maybe a chatting app. You put it in a server somewhere, let's say in the UK. If this server burns down, your application will no longer work. Your chat application will not work. You won't be able to make money. If you do something along those lines, if you keep making services, putting them on the internet on a central server, the government can shut down that particular link. And that is actually, some things that happen to us in everyday and everyday life. In university, certain sites are blocked because they are central. They must be accessed from one place. On a blockchain, multiple people are participating. There are multiple servers. So your application here running on a blockchain would, of course, be running on several instances. Like, you can't shut it down. If you shut this guy down, this guy already has it, and so on and so forth. So as blockchain becomes part of our everyday, and we hear about it every now and then, and eventually we, of course, hear about Freeton and Ton Labs. We know that they have a blockchain technology, and theirs is quite sophisticated. Like, we have a blockchain here. They have items we call master chain and so on. I'll get into those and all that good stuff. So the core of a blockchain is, of course, to facilitate software development and other forms of transactions and communications and even messaging. So we have our Freeton blockchain here. There are several things in the Freeton blockchain. We have Ton crystals. Let me just mute that guy. We have Ton crystals. We have other items are running. People are hosting their computers and so on. So blockchain technology is new. And for you to make any application on the blockchain, the most reliable current way. Please check if you are joining, just make sure your mic is muted, so at least everyone can hear clearly. So if you want to do anything on the blockchain, the most reliable way is to use something we call smart contracts. So smart contracts are just pieces of code. These are like the protocol now for the blockchain, whereby you are able to write a little bit of code to be able to run on the blockchain. So that is where actually smart contracts come into play. They are just small pieces of code which you own, you run on the blockchain. They are your point of interaction, point of entry into a blockchain. So you might have a smart contract, or in this case, a piece of code. We drop it in a blockchain, and maybe this smart contract sends a message to another smart contract. That smart contract is owned by your friend. Maybe it's owned by your friend Zuma. Zuma receives a message when you send it, and so on. So basically what you are doing, you are telling your smart contract to do something. So you are sending a message to your smart contract, it does some execution, and of course, the message travels across into the blockchain. So maybe I can just go through what I said again, because I see we have new people joining. Let me just refresh that. So usually we have traditional computing, everything is central. In blockchain, the notion of servers, or the idea of servers, is done away with. It is done away with for multiple advantages. In blockchain, you can't take anything down. If I take this guy down, the government shuts that one guy on the blockchain, these other guys are still up and running. So you can see how this can play a very, very big advantage in some sorts of applications that you guys might have in mind, or you might want to do. For example, everything on the blockchain is immutable. It cannot be changed, it cannot be destroyed. So that means for example, if you want to make an application that works in a very, very sensitive area, like where people maybe tamper with records, like purchasing of land and so on, whereby people are changing various things, please just make sure you are muted. If you want to make an application whereby you want to make sure that people cannot tamper with records or cannot partake in corruption, blockchain is the best solution for that type of application, because that means if one person changes a record, the record is still valid for other people. So you can see how that comes into play, and you have the advantage of your application running on being accessible from several points. Even if eventually there's one person standing, your application still works. And of course, as blockchain becomes more attractive, more people are getting on the blockchain. Maybe some of you have tried to mine things like Ethereum coin. You've joined the Ethereum network and so on, Bitcoins, and so on and so forth. So as more people come in, as the technology becomes stronger, it becomes even more, things can't be changed easily. It becomes tamper-proof, even better. The technology gets better because it gets faster and such things. So this is actually the point whereby smart contracts come in. If you want to make your application on the blockchain, you just simply interact with the smart contracts. And I'll go through this particular document. It's called the Basics of Blockchain. It's actually a Freeton document. It's shared on notion.com. Let me just add it I'll just send it as a chat message to everyone. When you have the time, go through it. You don't necessarily have to understand everything, but I'll talk about it and then I'll show you guys how it works. It talks about the blockchain structure. You can go through all that stuff and see what actually it means. But as I mentioned earlier, blockchain is mainly consisted of smart contracts, sending of messages, and so on. Of course, as we get to the sending of messages and doing transactions, things become a bit more complex, but your understanding of that will prove to be the success of your particular application. So if you understand how to deploy your smart contracts correctly, you can do various things. Maybe I'll talk about the examples that you guys might have in mind. You can sell tone crystals. You can ask people to buy tone crystals. You can make applications for chatting. You can make very, very powerful applications for chatting. And in fact, that is what Telegram is. If you've used Telegram, it relies heavily on the Tor network, which utilizes blockchain technology to relay your messages. That's why sometimes when you log on your PC, the level of interactivity you have with the Telegram client on PC is almost the same with the one on mobile, of course, with the difference of a few things. So that is how powerful it is. You can see that one powerful tool. And I believe right now it's over 500 million users. So you can see how usable it is, how fast it is, how reliable it is. So that is one application you guys might have in mind. Of course, the sky is the limit. As you think of more things, I would encourage to also keep this in mind. It's always a good idea when you're trying to do something. Think of, if you want to do something on blockchain, for example, I want to do an app that sells t-shirts on the blockchain. I need to ask myself, can I do this better if I just use a server? If the answer is yes, if it is cheaper using a server, then by all means, use the server. There's that line of, diminishing returns, and also, someone is drawing a question mark on my screen. These are smart contracts. I'm just trying to give more of a talk than a focused sort of presentation, so we both understand from that perspective. So if you're trying to do your application, think of if it is better done in another way, if it is better done in the traditional way, then you will know. If you see that doing your application in blockchain takes more time, but actually it is more effective on the blockchain, I encourage you to take the time, go through the document, and of course learn how smart contracts actually work, so that you can be able to execute your idea. But of course, if you can do without the blockchain, well and good for you. You can actually be able to go in that particular direction. So also some word of caution: blockchain is new, it is relatively young. The protocols are still in play, and as we get to do more things on it, you'll see some downsides. For example, I'll give you an instance. For example, you can try to send a message to your smart contract. It can get lost somewhere in between there. As the technology matures, of course, this will be a thing of the past, because as we know, usually in tech, if the technology is mature enough, it means it is like 100% reliable. If you have airtime on your phone and you send a message, it is very likely that message will get to the person on the other end. So those are just a few items I wanted to catch on. So the other item, of course, is the blockchain structure. I encourage you to go through the document. I've shared it and all that stuff. So eventually you'll get to a place whereby you see items like messages and transactions and BOC. Have a look, and I trust you will be able to execute these sort of things. So eventually, after you go through the document, I trust all of us have some sort of background in doing some sort of development. Either one, you've maybe installed WAMP on your PC. You know how to do a typical program. You can do Hello World. If you don't,
can I interject, Thomas? Let me just interject quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We have some of the hackathon participants
mm-hmm.
that didn't go through the Freeton
mm-hmm.
hackathon participants, sorry, the ABI hackathon participants that didn't go through. So it's basically, we have some of them in mind that joined up. So we are trying to progress them to the next stage of their careers in terms of blockchain and all that. So we can just take it from the basics there and still progress, we go deeper. But basically, everyone that, even if someone that doesn't have the knowledge of smart contract, can still understand a little bit of what they are saying. So maybe the person could pick interest and decide to follow up, presenting more and more talks on the smart contracting. So we take them all along.
Okay, that is perfectly okay. Okay, so from that, I'll just get into it. I'll talk about the things you need to install on your PC. First of all, make sure you have a computer. You might have a computer. So I'm going to talk about how to install the tools that you need to execute your smart contracts. For example, in this folder, I'll just make a folder called Ton. In that particular folder, I'll open it up. So there are 3 things you need to install to make sure that you can write your smart contracts, you can compile them, and of course, you can run them. One of the tools is called the CLI tool. I'll just make a folder, name that. The other thing is called the compiler. Just call it comp. And of course, the other thing is called the TVM. We have a TVM linker. Let me just rename that, sorry. Linker, and so on. So these are the three things that you need to install on your PC. Of course, I'll get into other more fluent ways of talking to the blockchain, whereby I'll demonstrate the SDK tools and all that. But for you to form any sort of understanding of doing smart contracts, you need these three things, and they are listed here in this particular example. Can that line be taken away? Who put the line? Someone drew the line, Mohammed. I'm so sorry, guys. There's a guy who drew the line on my screen. Okay, let me just send this to everyone. There's a link I've shared. So that is where you start from. There are a couple of things you'll need to install. I'm going to show you how to install them. I believe that my major questions when I did the first run through of this was, of course, how to get started. Particularly, a lot of people have a problem with that. So I'll talk about installing the Ton OS tool. So this is the link. I'll copy it here. There we go. So just get that link and you'll be good. If you're familiar with GitHub, you won't be a stranger here. So since you are going to install our Ton OS tool, Ton OS CLI tool, in the folder we created, you're just going to go in here, type CMD. And there we are, we're in the folder. So currently there are no files in here, so we are good to go. So we're just going to copy this and clone that particular repository on our PC. So make sure you have Git installed. I'm going to press that and then it clones. Just press enter. If you do not know how to install Git install Windows, just Google that. Again, I'll share the link. You need Git so that you can clone the repository. There we go. I've shared a link. So have a look and you should be able to install it. So as it installs, it will clone. Make sure you have the correct amount of data. You are not on a data plan and your internet is good. And then you should be able to finish installing. So all the other things you need you need Git to install because you'll be working with GitHub a lot. The other item I would like for you to install is something called Cargo. Cargo is it packages Cargo install Windows. It packages the Rust installation required to install the compiler. So if you have Windows, just click on this particular link. So let me just share this again. For those of you who use Linux or Mac, the instructions are here. Please follow them well, and you'll be good to go. So as our compiler copies Ton OS CLI tool installs there, eventually you'll get somewhere where you can just follow these commands. Make sure you also have Cargo. Make sure you have Cargo installed. Cargo will put Rust on your PC. So yeah, check on that. There's a guy who keeps writing on my screen. Why is he drawing hands? Comedian, okay. So make sure you have that installed. So I'm going to talk about eventually when it installs, this is the command you'll use. So I already have it installed on my PC. So I'll just come to where the installation is and come to here it is. Just go inside the CLI tool. Who is this?
Can you just
Lovely.
take out the sharing of the screen for a minute and then put it back on?
Okay.
Stop sharing screen, then put that.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, please don't do that. It's distracting. So go inside the target folder and release, and then you should be good to go. You'll see something like Ton OS CLI. So if you are here, and for example, we type Ton os-cli, you'll see the few instructions that we get and so on and so forth. So this is a command that you use. There are a few things you need to know about using the command. So number one, the first thing about using the command, it has a syntax. So I'm trying to look. Here's the syntax. You use a command, you call the method, and then you pass the parameters here. So that is something to keep in mind. For example, we can use our TonOS CLI tool to check the configurations that we have. TonOS-CLI, and maybe config and release list. And there we go. We can see the URL is net.ton.dev. So I'm going to talk about actually this particular URL. Let's copy it. net.ton.dev. Let's just go there. So the graph. Yeah, it's taking us to the Explorer. Just a minute as it loads. So you can visit this site. This site is what I call, it's called the Blockchain Explorer. And you're actually going to use it to see a few things on how the actual CLI tool works. So for example, on the top left here, you can see there's a main blockchain URL and the net one. So you always want to make sure you are using net. So if on your configuration, always make sure you are using net, and also you can change that. So net is where the developer, it's where you can develop on. Net is on the main, of course, the main blockchain. It runs on the main blockchain. So again, unless you want to deploy your app or take it live, you don't need to use main. Always use net, and you should be good to go. So you're just going to come here and you can explore and view maybe the transactions that have happened. It's actually a very good place to start. So you can see, let's have a look at this one. You can see the accounts that are doing transactions. You can see someone sent 3 points, those value of tons to another account, and that is the message ID. So this is how you can track if your blockchain transactions are successful and all that. Let me just show you an example right here of how we can check the balance of a certain account and what that looks like. So if you can, for example, a typical command would look something like TonOS-CLI, and of course you can check the account like that, and you'll see it will connect to the blockchain and get us the account balance. So what we just typed in there is let me just open the notepad. Is something like that. This is the account address. I believe you've come across it. If you use the Tonsaf wallet, you want to send money, this is the account that you use. So for example, if I copy this account and I paste it here, let's see what happens. I find that indeed that is the account. You can see the balance there checks out with what we are seeing here. It is around 1.9. You can see it is 1.9 here. So that is one way you can interact with this particular tool to be able to interact with any message or any sort of transaction on the blockchain. It's actually an issue in which I was talking about earlier, in which the transactions in the blockchain are on the blockchains are immutable. They cannot be changed. So it provides sort of a history of anything that account has ever done. You can see the messages here. It was sent 2 tons, it received 0 tons, and so on and so forth. So you can track everything there. The other tool I would like to show you is net.dot. Let me just GraphQL. This GraphQL tool. Again, in the same spirit, I'll share the link. Have a look. There it is. I'll copy it. And if I put that here, let's see what happens. So you can run that, and we can check that the last transaction, that is the ID. So it's a good tool if you are good in JSON, you are good in developing stuff in JavaScript. You can also validate that that is correct. So you can come here and you can see that is valid. So you can make an actual application that just connects to this particular endpoint, is able to get data and do all that sort of stuff. So maybe the next example I want to get into is we're just going to show you a few of these particular examples and general commands. So you might want to deploy your smart contract. Number one, make sure you have the TVC files that are needed. I'm going to use the example here. You have the TVC files that are needed, and you have the necessary generated phrase for that particular contract. So you can. Let me just mute that guy. So some other commands that actually lead to you, of course, creating your own particular or deploying your own own contract. I'm going to start here, whereby we have this command. It's called we can generate a seed phrase. Ton os -cli gen seed. That's not the command. Gen phrase, and we have a phrase like that. So for example, if we copy this, we can be able to deploy our own smart contract. For example, if I paste it there, if you use the Tonsaf wallet, you've seen this somewhere. It is just a passphrase, so we can use that. The other thing, you can get your global settings using that particular command. But what I want us to do is deploy our first smart contract. So I'm just going to set the syntax here. I noted that most people had an issue actually getting to this particular phase. So make sure you have a link to your ABI file. For example, I know I have one here, so I'm just going to put that there, and so on, and the TVC file. These are all needed, and you can compile them. If you go through the tutorial, you'll be able to tell what is actually needed in that particular area. So we have a TVC file here. I'm going to make that bigger, and of course we are going to use this seed phrase, generate address, that is there. Just a minute. Generate address, generate key, something like that. We are going to paste this particular. Just going to put that here. Space, and put this the phrase that we got, so that we can deploy our first smart contract. So we just paste that there, and press enter. SCLI generate address. So let me check that. Oh, so there we go. We have our address here and our seed phrase. So it will look something like that. So this is there's someone making noise or moving around. So this is the seed phrase that you use when you are doing your transactions, and this is the raw address. So the raw address currently has no. Of course, you've made an address, but you need to put an address there, a contract there. You can't do anything on the blockchain without, of course, having tons. So if you ever get your address just on the Discord, we will take step by step. It's going to be okay. I still have a long way to go. I'm sorry, don't feel that way. If you feel you're stuck somewhere, just ask. It is really simple. I would encourage you to have a look at the documents that I've shared. If you have particular troubles installing, please let me know, and I can be able to assist you. So let me get into the basics of actually deploying your first smart contract. So if you want to deploy your first smart contract, you will need the code for that smart contract for you to deploy it. And the command, of course, is of course deploy. So you have to compile it. So install the compiler and all that. So the command would look something like this. It will look something like that. So whereby you just reference the ABI file that you created or compiled, and you sign it with the words that you generated. And of course, you just deploy it. So, but before you deploy anything on the blockchain, you cannot deploy it for free. So if you are, what does it take to build a personal blockchain, or do we have to choose an existing network to deploy? You have to choose an existing network to deploy your contracts. So you can't be, unless you are willing to, you do not have to build your own. You can just use the one that is there, and it actually has good facilities for you to be able to deploy your own smart contracts. So yeah, you just use the one that is already there, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to talk about the syntax of and the rules of deploying your first smart contract, which is actually covered also here. If you have a look at the example that I've shared, it lists all this here. So let's look at where we have deploy. Okay, so here we go. For you to deploy your smart contract, that is of course the syntax. Let's copy this and come back to where we were here. So what we will do, for example, this is the syntax. Let's set the parameter to 0. We are going to use workchain 0. So this is a syntax. We've gotten it from here. So what you just do is replace everything here with valid files on your computer. So for the wallet.abi, I would do this. I would replace it like that. Then to sign it, I can sign it using the words that I got. I can just get them here. I can just copy this, Control C, and come and replace it and sign it here, just like that. And sorry. The other thing, of course, is we want to take the TVC file that we compile. Just take it from here and do that. So currently, this particular wallet has no tons in it. So if you were to come here and check this particular raw address that we got, it would say that it doesn't exist. And say something like ton os-cli account, paste that address there. Let's see what happens. Account not found, because that account has not yet been deployed. There's no smart contract there, because of course you can't deploy anything on the blockchain for free. So for you to deploy a contract under this wallet, just ask on the forums, and someone will be able to give you a few tons so that you can deploy it. You can't deploy anything free on the blockchain. So if you want to run any sort of application that uses smart contracts on the blockchain, you need it sponsored. So for example, if you were to run this, I wonder what would happen. Just copy it again. Let's close that, put it like so. Okay, the system cannot find the specified file. Deploy wallet BI, sign, TVC, just a minute. Oh, okay. Let's take this again, sign, and so on, ABI, sign. Just make sure we have the files. I'm sure it's this one that's changed. We can always check like this. It's valid. Let's use wallet.tvc. Let's copy that again. And 150. Let's check that. Just a minute. But yeah, that's the basis. You need tons to, of course, facilitate your own smart contracts and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if there's any question. I see a bunch of you are confused. I still have a long way to go and so on. Is there any question up to that point? Hello. So again, if you want,
Can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, let me just talk on where to get your smart contracts. So if you come here, the main, let me just share the link also. If you come under Ton Labs, you'll be able to get all your, there's a link to contracts here. Let me just look for them so that I can share. I'll just Google Ton Labs contracts. Here they are. Let me just share them. So we can check out the ones that are written in Solidity. We can check out the contest one, the bot, and so on. But you're going to check out this one. So let's have a look. For example, if you deploy an app that uses say multi-sig, that is, maybe you have a Ton wallet account that requires several people to write it. You deploy it with these particular parameters. You'd say the owners, maybe you list the owners in form of an array, and you'd say that only 2 are required to, of course, to confirm any sort of transaction. And when you are calling a particular method, like here, what you are doing here, what you do is write something like ton or s call, and then you call that particular method. It's actually listed here. So go and give that a look. So you'd call that a BI file, and then the address, and then the method and the parameters. So the method, these are the methods. So for example, a method to accept transfer, this is what you'd call. You'd set the payload and the bytes. Of course, if it's a string, just convert it to bytes. I will need to reward this from training because I'm lost on some vital. Okay. After building a smart, After building a smart contract and deploying, how do you make it usable to the whole world? What is that is a user-friendly way? Okay, that's a good question, and it's actually where the next portion comes in. So, for example, you made your app. You've used a programming language like JavaScript. JavaScript talks to the blockchain, to Ton Labs blockchain. You can run smart contract. It talks to the blockchain. It executes your smart contracts. For example, you have a line of code that, of course, you can give it parameters and it sends money to someone. So what you do is just make a user interface around your parent language. That is, like, for example, JavaScript. So you can make a mobile app or an HTML app or a website and so on and so forth. So that's actually another question that leads to the SDK samples that are provided here, because they actually bear that in mind. I'll provide a link to them. Here are the samples. I would like for us, at least, to, in one of these sessions, to give it a try and maybe make a simple app that sends money or sends tons using maybe JavaScript, so that you can all see. So those are the samples there. You can check them out. I believe there are samples in other languages. Let me just show you the listings. SDK. If you come here, yeah, there are so many here. Are you going to talk about NFT? What's NFT?
Yes, NFTs. Michael Jerry will talk about NFTs. So.
Oh, okay. So here is where you'd get your example. So if you program in PHP, you can use PHP to make your app. If you program in Ruby, you can use Ruby to make your app. So, like I know in the Java example, is actually an example, a very, very valid example of sending a few grams. So if you are good in Java, you can just come here, use this code, set it up, and make your own application. Set the keys here like I was showing, and be able to send a particular, do a transfer and all that. So you can build a nice application around this that is able to do all that stuff. I would have loved for us to actually do a physical, something much more links to get the recorded. Okay.
The links will be circulated. Sorry to interject.
Okay. So again, as I was talking about earlier, so we just finished our copy to copy the file. So when you are setting up the CLI tool, because we set it up with GitHub, what you want to do is you can see the files that I've set up. So maybe you want to change the directory to go to ton or s-cli. So we can just check what is in here. So the thing you want to look out for is this file called cargo.ton. So after you see it, while you are inside there, so just type cargo build. Sorry, I typed it wrong. Cargo build, and it will start updating for you. So you are basically setting up the TonOS CLI tool. All the other installations do something similar. Just be keen on the directories. Also, if you are using all sorts of operating systems like Ubuntu and Linux, which language is best for blockchain? No language is best for blockchain. Just choose. I would encourage you to choose what you are comfortable in. As the example state here, as the examples I've shared, you can see they are very, very valid. As the examples I've shared, this. Let me just open this. Here we are. You can see the examples right here. There are so many. There is examples in Dart. There's examples in Lua and .NET. So I don't think there's a particular language suitable for blockchain, but depends on what you want to do. If you want to do more immediate things, I would encourage you to run on Rust or Solidity. So at least you can have a much more direct way of doing it. But I believe there are also examples in C++. So the best thing I can tell you is choose a tool that you are best comfortable in, and yeah, you'll be good to go. Is there any other question? I can see there's none. Oh yeah, so as it builds, of course, make sure console run on MetaMask. Yeah, I believe it can. So as it builds, you see something like this for the ton. What do you mean for the ton? I don't know what that means. Maybe you can clarify.
Like the ton, like this ton network.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I build my own smart contract and test on MetaMask or any other network?
Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe I can answer. Maybe I can answer in one way. Yeah. The answer is yes. Just set up your own trial. You can set up your own local host Freeton network. There is actually, I believe I talked to you on Discord, correct? Anyway, I'll share with you there. You can run your own local blockchain network there, and it can run on MetaMask. That's what you're asking. I believe you're asking for isolation. Yeah, so that's what I had to share. Next time I'll go into more detail. I'll at least set up one, and we can do the transferring of tons or something like that. Yeah. So thank you for showing up.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. So Thomas has been one of the techie guys taking on the AVI/Freeton hackathon. So there is this hackathon that is actually coming up. It's already in progress, but the finals is scheduled to hold April. That's the last week of April. It's scheduled to hold in African Leadership University, Kigali, Rwanda. So basically, Thomas has taken many people that don't know anything about blockchain or smart contracts, and he has turned them to people producing things that could run on blockchain. So we have some of the participants that couldn't scale through the first stage. So we are trying to kind of integrate them back now into the whole thing. So by making them more acquainted on how to build from beginning to scratch. Maybe some of it that just came into the meeting now would be like, the whole thing is techy and all that. But then we have some people that already started from somewhere. So But then maybe Thomas, in the subsequent editions, we could come and start, like, let's say, deploying a smart contract on the Freeton blockchain. Like, we do it from start to finish, like a detailed example, or maybe the CLI or something. Just take it from start to finish, where they understand more. Because here now, basically, just touched almost everything about blockchain, touched the whole lot. So, but then about smart contract rather, but then we just take maybe just one example, and then you get to talk on it much, and then do a whole lot of demonstrations for them to see the practical.
Sure. I will do that. I'll do that.
That way they will catch up more, and then you progress from there. Anyone that doesn't have idea of smart contract but then has the knowledge, this is definitely going to go on as an iHub. So more and more knowledge will be shared, and a whole lot of things thoughts going forward. So thank you, Thomas. It's always nice. It's always great to hear from you, like your passion and all that. You mastered your craft quite good at it and all that. Thank you for coming around. So I'll welcome Michael Jerry to come and take us on NFTs. Someone already was asking about. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right, welcome.
Yeah, wonderful session, Thomas. That was awesome. I was paying attention as well. Yeah, awesome. So, guys, let's we've got a couple of minutes to spend differently. So today we'll be talking about NFTs, and we are not really delving that deep. We want to ensure that young Austin, sorry, I would like to share my screen, if you don't mind.
All right.
Can I have the permission to share my screen? Okay.
All right,
so guys, we'll be talking about the basics of NFTs, so you can actually understand what is the whole thing about NFTs all about now. But before I proceed, before we quickly tap into the world of NFTs, you have to understand that the blockchain technology, like I do say, it's limitless. There are tons of things that we can apply this to. It's more like we have a technology that cut across, the science technology cut across a lot of things. It's an innovation, a new way of what's doing something. That means that there has been a previous way of doing things. So when you talk about an innovation, that means that there is an advanced or improved or a better way of what's doing something. And that's what you want. So like every time you talk about blockchain, that's what you should always remember. The blockchain with things is better. It's not like it's putting an end to the systems of the world. Now it's making it better. So let me quickly share my screen, and I'm still waiting for permission. So okay, I can share my screen now. A couple of seconds. Okay. So I need to move this. All right, guys. So what are NFTs? NFTs basically are just non-fungible tokens. They are cryptographic assets on blockchain with they have unique identification codes and metadata that distinguish them from one another. Now, let me know in the common language. Now, when you're talking about NFTs, you first have to understand the differences between when we say fungible and non-fungible. Now, cryptos generally are fungible. What does that mean is you can break down cryptos, you can break down 1 unit of Bitcoin, you can break down a Bitcoin into Satoshi and still be able to sell. Maybe you're selling 2,000 sats, you can break down, and just like the normal currencies of the world, like our fiat, in Nigeria, we use Naira. The unit of Naira is still kobo. Now, that means that a single Naira you can break down a single Naira into kobo, and this kobo still carries a value. You understand? But that's the meaning of what fungibility. That's what you can actually break it down, and it's still what has value. When you break down something and it's still valuable. But unlike that aspect of cryptos, that it's fungible. Non-fungible tokens, it's just the basic term that you cannot just break it down. You can actually combine. There are instances where we can combine one of these non-fungible tokens together to give another third fungible token. But you cannot break down a token. You understand? You cannot break down a token into simpler units. It's You cannot break it down. That's just the differences between what fungibility and non-fungibility. Now, we will now talk about non-fungible tokens. These are representations. Yeah, these are digital representations. Just like in the real world, we have our physical assets, we have land, we have gold, we have all of these things. In the digital world, or let's say, there are ways of representing these assets or making them valuable, like our digital art, short video clips, or even physical assets like gold, like silver, like diamond. We can have a way of representing them on the blockchain. Now, this is what you should pay attention to when we are representing this, even physical asset as a digital asset. It's much more easier. Let's quickly talk a little bit about e-commerce now, so you can actually blend in well. There is an aspect of e-commerce. There are two aspects of e-commerce, which is we talk about digital products, we talk about physical products. Now, when you're going into physical products, that means maybe you're selling products that needs to be shipped from one location to another. Understand? They need to be shipped. So you want to consider transportation and all of those things. Now, imagine rather than having to transfer such things, you can transfer the ownership digitally. You understand? You can represent these physical assets. You can represent them digitally and have an easier access or easier way to transfer even the ownership. So now, non-fungible tokens or NFTs are cryptographic assets. That means what they are leveraging the blockchain technology with unique identification codes, and it's more like something that tells you the information about what these particular NFTs are. Because an NFT, one NFT is different from another NFT. We talked about fungibility already. One Bitcoin is same as another Bitcoin. You understand? For fungible tokens, one Bitcoin is same as another Bitcoin. An NFT it's unique. That's the word. It's unique. It's special. It's different from another NFT. You understand? It's different from another NFT. So that's one of the things we want to consider when we were talking about NFTs. So they cannot be traded or exchanged at equivalency. This differs from fungible tokens. That's just the same thing. You can exchange one of Bitcoin for another Bitcoin. You still have Bitcoin. When we're talking about NFTs, it's quite different. These are digital assets. Be anything. That's just the simple thing. Let's proceed. We just explained that fungibility and non-fungible. Now, still the same thing. Now, like physical money, cryptocurrencies are fungible. They cannot be traded or exchanged. They can be traded or exchanged one for another. For example, one Bitcoin is always equal in value to another Bitcoin. Bitcoin now is at the value of $60,000. One Bitcoin here in Ghana, here in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, it's still the same value with another one in another person's wallet. The Bitcoin in your wallet is one Bitcoin. For NFTs, the case is it's quite different. When you're talking about NFTs, you cannot compare one NFT to another. There are instances whereby one single NFT is minted like a couple of times. We have you can have a single NFT in 20 places, still 20 copies. That's different. But when you're talking about Bitcoin on let's say an exchange, another Bitcoin and an exchange, they are fungible tokens. So let's proceed. We've talked about their special cryptographic tokens representing something unique. Understand? It could be physical properties, good and skip anything. Okay, cool. Let's quickly talk about a brief history of NFTs. Just like when you're talking about crypto, you can actually relate it back to Satoshi Nakamoto and the likes. But for the case of NFTs, while I started learning about NFTs back then, I started with research, and there are a couple of, when you go through different blogs, when you go through different sources on YouTube, there are people, there are a lot of people, everyone is attributing the NFTs, attributing credits to different individuals, and it's actually a bit hard to tell, okay, where is the original person behind the NFTs? But you shouldn't have to worry about that. There are still important people that we have to mention their names. But the first thing about NFTs, first use case of NFTs are traceable back to games, crypto collectible games like Age of Chains in 2016. And I think we take Radmowski as the co-founder of Engine Coin is actually believed to have created the first fungible token. I think he released the code around August same year. Now NFTs. Let's quickly talk about the standards of NFTs. Let's quickly talk about standard of NFTs. Cryptocurrency might have seen something like ERC-21. There are different blockchains. In NFTs we have standards too for creating these NFTs. You really don't use the word create, use what mint. That's the best. That's the appropriate word now. NFTs evolved from ERC-721 standard developed by some of the same people responsible for ERC-20 smart contracts. We just talked about smart contracts. I'm not sure about the standard. But ERC-27, we have different standard on what Ethereum. You must have seen even on our Tron blockchain, on different blockchain, we have different standards, what's created for different purposes. You understand? Now even on Binance, we have BEP20, BSC. We have different standards. We have different standards. So the ownership details, security, and metadata required for exchange and distribution of game goods. The ERC-115 standard takes the concepts for reducing the transaction and storage required for NFTs and batching. This is just actually talking about the different standards you can use for NFTs tokens, and I think the most popular is with ERC-721. It's a standard on Ethereum blockchain. When you're creating tokens, and most of our tokens, most of our cryptos, they are ERC-20. That's another standard. For fungible tokens. When you're talking about ERC-721, you're talking about standards for non-fungible tokens. I hope you guys can actually hear me, and I hope I'm not too fast. If I'm actually too fast, please let me know. I'm trying to watch our time. Okay, so that's just a brief history of NFTs. Now, when we talk about, I'm trying to make a comparison between blockchain, cryptocurrency rather, and NFTs. Both exist on they both are leveraging on the blockchain technology. You understand that? When we talk about cryptos, we talk about we talked about immutability. You understand? A couple of features we talk about. Those are the kind of qualities. Those are the kind of features related to cryptos. Now, when we talk about NFTs too, there are specific features of NFTs. Now, the first one is rarity. You understand? NFTs are they are rare and they are unique. And I think even when you're talking about NFTs marketplace, it makes more sense. Because when people oftentimes ask why should I care to buy a digital something? And you have to explain to them hey, it's all about the sentiment. It's all about the emotions that are attached to these NFTs, the message that are attached to these NFTs. And one of the things that drives these messages with rarity, one NFT is like I explained earlier, Bitcoin now, one Bitcoin, if you see one Bitcoin in this wallet, it's still the same thing as another Bitcoin wallet. As much as Bitcoin is still unique, it's still not as unique when you talk about NFTs, because one NFT is different from another NFT. So these things are they are rare now. Another thing is another thing to talk about is representation. Like I said earlier, these NFTs can actually be made to represent even physical assets. Physical assets. They're like I said, there are emotions behind NFTs. So these have message. They are representing something. It could even be digital certificates. Understand? It could be digital certificates. That's about representation. Another thing is uniqueness. Deep inside the NFT token, we have what we explained earlier, what we called metadata. Now, the metadata describes, since we explained that NFTs are rare, so it's the metadata. That's how you spot them. Okay, now the metadata contains the information this is the information about these NFTs, and we'll still talk about provenance when I get to explain that. Now, easy of transfer. Now, easy transfer means just like in physical world, for you to transfer your digital art, we have people that draw and all of these things. You have to go to exhibition, in such a similar way where we have the highest bidder goes with a particular, or maybe a product or digital drawing or something like that. It's not quite easy when you have to move through that. Just like I explained earlier, in the e-commerce world, in the e-commerce world, I explained the concept of physical and digital products. Understand? So now you cannot. Digital products are just they are easily transferable online. Someone pays and instantly they can download it on the website, they can download it on anywhere, and they own it. Now, when they have access to it, they can decide to print it. They have the certificate issued as the original owner, on the blockchain. And on the blockchain, you cannot obviously everybody knows the blockchain is what's immutable. So it's one of the things that, you know, when you're talking about artists stealing our fellow artists or drawings or something, it's this curtails all instances of such. Understand? That's another thing of what easy transfer. Talking about easy transfer. Another thing around that easy transfer, we'll still talk about guaranteed ownership. It's okay. The next is provenance. Now, provenance is just talking about, it's more like a roadmap of a thing. It's like, you know, in biology, we talk about carbon dating. In carbon dating, you are actually able to see things that has happened to like a fossil. You know, you get to see, you get to extract. Okay, this is just like the procedure with which they extract. This bone has been existing since 1800. You understand? They do it with carbon dating. Something similar is with provenance. It tells you about what the details, like important details of an NFT. You know, since minting provenance, it's more like a backdating of the thing that tells you what about the particular NFTs. Now, another thing is guaranteed ownership. You know, NFTs they bring like full confidence to its owners for such assets. You know, either digital, like physical, or as the information and history of the assets can be verified on the blockchain. Just like I explained earlier, like it curtails the issue, it curtails the problems, the challenges of fellow artists. You know, stealing another art. You know, when you see some in the physical world now, if you see someone with an art, how do you verify not the original owner the original. But in the case of any, it's easier, you know, it's easier, you know, these are what it is. So we still have a lot of things to leave about why it is. So we explain these cases, handle these things before we even start talking about mint visions or mint tokens. You know, on Twitter now, you must have seen instances where people are turning their tweets have to do is go to your wallet address, understand, tag our tweet, screenshot of following them. Then NFT in an tweet is converted to what? An NFT. And you can actually list once it is verified that it has been
Hello, can anyone hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. I thought you went off for some minutes or some seconds rather.
Yeah. Can you see my screen from that hand?
It's starting to share. Yeah, we can see it. Between you've been cracking for like
okay, now, so what I was trying to okay, let me I'll come back again. What I was trying to explain is the concept of what NFTs. You know, I was talking about how you can easily, you know, one can easily mint an NFT. That's the thing. It's not difficult. Minting is actually, I think I'm having issues with my internet connection, where I'm working on it at the moment. One of the major issues of what NFTs is, it's like selling. You know, making sales. Artists are not really, not so much of them are quiet. You know, selling. You know, let's quickly understand why NFTs and why do people buy NFTs, so that even when you're starting, then I was talking about how you can easily, you know, you must have seen the likes of Jack Dorsey on Twitter, and you must have seen CZ of Binance, you know, selling their previous tweets. You know, people selling their tweets. You know, as an NFT, it's easy. You just have to make the tweet, go to your MetaMask, copy your wallet address, go back to the tweet, under it, tag at tokenized tweet, and paste your wallet address next to it, understand? Send it in the same tweet. They respond to you. You can go to OpenSea and you see your NFT. You can list and sell. You know, that's not hard. Let's quickly talk about why NFTs so you understand better. And then I think in coming classes we can actually start looking at using NFTs and listing to sell. To many, the idea of NFT is crazy. Seeing some representation of peace like NFTs like PP on OpenSea. On OpenSea are worth more than 20 ETH. Sorry, am I connected, Young?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Guys, to me personally, this idea of NFTs are crazy, and that's the thing. It's crazy, but crypto, it's more like an innovation, like I said earlier. I saw something on OpenSea. OpenSea is a marketplace for NFTs, and it's Pepe. There are some Pepe NFTs. There are worth more than 20 ETH, 20 ETH, and these are what a representation of what peace. That's for the particular NFTs. Like we said earlier, some NFTs, basically NFTs are representations. They represent peace. And I was telling people, hey, I'm not even sure United States or United Nations or United Kingdom peacekeepers are paid this handsomely, to represent peace or something. That's the crazy thing about NFTs. Now, people buy NFTs. Why do people buy NFTs? People buy NFTs depending on their emotions and the message of value. Sorry, it's meant to be value attached to the place on the NFT. Now, for people to start, when you mint your token and you list on a marketplace, it can be token proof, it can be OpenSea. We have a lot of marketplaces right now. I think there are a couple of NFTs integration, even into Binance Smart Chain already. They're into series of blockchains. Do you understand? That's the point. Now, why do people buy? People basically buy for emotions, emotions and sentiments. They believe that if I actually get this, there are people that are satisfied. You want to have this feeling of this piece of art is only owned by me all over the world. I only have access to this. That's the crazy aspect of it. Now, rarity and store of wealth. There are people that buy NFTs as a store of wealth. I was going through some YouTube, popular people in NFTs, and it was explaining that I buy these NFTs because a couple of years ago, Bitcoin, people were saying some shit about Bitcoin. People were saying this and this about Bitcoin instead. But today, it's worth a good money. So I'm buying because I feel in coming years, could take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's their own speculation. But this is going to worth me. And why? Because they believe that I only have access to this. So if anyone or there are more people in the future that sees value in this, understand, they should be willing to pay more than I did to acquire this. And since on in NFTs, you can actually verify that you're the actual owner. It's not easy for people to just steal your art. It's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible, kind of. So that's about rarity and store of it. And another thing is reality. Even in the physical world, there are some productions, could be music, could be something like creators or people who mint these things have a way with royalties. Like every sales, if I mint this and I sell to you, and I place a royalty of 10%, that means even in 10 years, you're trying to sell this same NFT to another person. I don't know what value it is. I don't want to know what value you're selling it at. You understand? I still get 10%. That's what we refer to as what royalty. It exists in what your real world. When in the world of NFTs, it's easier. It's easier. Kind of. It's very, very easy. Having to go and start meeting people, trying to even investigate if your heart has been sold since you turn in the ownership to another person. So it's easier to track on the blockchain. Now, another thing is NFTs provide an easy way for artists to market, verify authenticity of digital art, since they have metadata that carries information about NFTs and their provenance. We've talked about this already. We've explained the aspect of what metadata. Now let's quickly move. Let's move on. Okay. Now, more use cases of NFTs. NFTs representing digital or physical artwork. Like I said earlier, NFTs are not only limited to what digital representations, like art, collectibles or kind of things. You can actually use NFTs. There is a keyword we use is what tokenize your physical asset. Tokenize what physical asset. It's NFTs are crazy. A couple of these collectibles, couple of all these NFTs, they can be imported into games. There are platforms that are integrating NFTs into their system. The likes of Sandbox. We have a lot of them. So a couple of these arts, we can import them into games like My Crypto Heroes. Sandbox. You can even use NFTs, for stamping. You get. So, NFTs representing digital or physical artwork on the blockchain removes the need for agents and allows artists to connect directly with their audience. If you need to sell your NFT now, your art or something, mint it, get it on OpenSea or wherever the market you want to use. You necessarily don't have to start going to another exhibition or something where people are taking percentage of you every time. It can also improve their business process, like I explained. For example, an NFT for a wine bottle will make it easier for different actors in the supply chain to interact with it and help track its provenance, production, sale through the process. Like I explained earlier, even with the aspect of royalty, it's easier to track in the concept of NFT, since there's something like provenance, there's something like metadata, that tells you information about what, and it's, you are able to even verify the ownership of what NFTs. So it's easier for you to now track where you should be getting royalty from, unlike in the real world where you have to like start investigating. Now, consulting firm and Ernst Young has already developed such a solution for one of its clients. Now, another more NFT use cases, we talked about gaming, we talked about digital identity, licensing, certificates, and find out as time goes by in previous or in upcoming classes, or rather, would have time to start explaining these, considering NFTs and games, NFTs and DeFi, NFTs and identity, digital identity verification, tokenizing your physical assets. NFTs, the concept of NFTs can even be applied to real estate. You understand? Real estate. Since you can verify the authenticity of something. So it's just like you create a representation. These things are what's unique. So you create a representation that validates your ownership of a physical asset, and it is stored on the blockchain, which is immutable. So disputes like land ownership, I own this land, I own this land. When you talk about provenance and metadata and the blockchain, it's solved. The concept of NFTs. So let's move on. Let's move on. I'm having have resisted my time, by the way. Now, how do NFTs work? Let's quickly talk about NFTs. There are various frameworks for the creation and issuance of NFTs. Like we said earlier, we talked about different standards, even on the Ethereum blockchain or different blockchain you might go where you can create or mint. That's the mint tokens. The most prominent. Hello, please. Can that person mute their audio?
Please, if you have a mic on, you're not speaking, can you please mute yourself, please?
Okay, thank you. Now, how do NFTs work? There are various frameworks for the creation and issuance of NFTs. The most prominent of this is ERC-21, standard for issuance and trading of non-fungible tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. I think when we're talking of NFTs, it's kind of popular when you're talking about an Ethereum blockchain, and I'm very, very sure there are a couple of other blockchains. You can find any blockchain to learn more how the NFTs work on the blockchain. It's different across different blockchain. The standards are different. So now, a more recent improved standardizes ERC-115. This is still talking about standards of minting tokens. I think in coming classes we'd have better time to pick a blockchain in particular and consider a way of minting token on the blockchain in a practical class. It enables a single contract to contain both fungible and non-fungible tokens, opening up a whole new range of possibilities. The standardization of the issuance of NFTs allows a higher degree of interoperability. Understand? There are some standards that when there are different standards. There are some standards that it's more like a project that is going parachain, or multi-chain. That means that they can actually operate, these issues of gas fee here and there. Now there are projects that are going multi-chain so that they can operate. There are ones that want to be integrated into health tools. There are ones that want to still be on the blockchain. When we talk about interoperability, that means that they can operate on different blockchain and still functions as best as they should. And that's what they still, when we're talking about interoperability, there are different standards, for minting NFT tokens. So when we say something is interoperability, that means that you can actually switch in between what these standards and what mints easily. So that's about that. That's the general overview. NFT market, like I told you earlier, the minting part, like I've seen a couple of artists online of people with, NFT token or non-fungible token. It's actually not. The problem is not minting. The problem is getting to sell. Getting to place a value on their NFTs. The market is open to everybody, so it's more like everybody has equal rights in the market. But there are some things, these are things that we're talking about emotions. You'd rather choose to go for an NFT minted or created by a CZ or by Jack Dorsey or by maybe the founder or the editors of. So if you're looking to store
Hello, can anyone hear me? If anyone can hear me, can you just write on the chat? I can hear you.
This is
I can hear you.
All right. All right,
I can
guys.
hear you.
All right. Michael, I think Jerry is having a poor connection, so let's give him some seconds to
Hello?
find that. Jerry, can you hear me? You were lost for some seconds in your network.
Hello?
Yeah, Jerry, we can hear you, but you were lost for some seconds, your network.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you please give me the permission to share my screen? I'm trying to share my screen now.
Okay. Go ahead now.
Okay, thank you. Now, so the beauty of NFTs, you can through the app, you can go to NFT markets. We have different places where you can sell the likes of OpenSea even allows you to mint. You can mint on OpenSea and sell your digital collectibles, your tokens and all, or your non-fungible tokens. Now, like I said earlier, basically values are built on sentiment, emotions, and relevance. This is basically the NFT market. This is what it works on. Value. What people feel. What's the perception of people about your NFT? How like I said earlier, you can create an NFT and mint it like a couple of times. Maybe you have 100 copies. It's people would prefer to go for something that you can only have just one copy. They can win for something like you have 100. That means what 100 people can own it. When something is just one person, the value, the perception was increases now. NFTs can be traded in open marketplaces such as OpenSea, Mintbase, Token Trove. These are markets that connect buyers with sellers, and the value of each token is unique. Naturally, NFTs are prone to price changes in response to market supply and demand. This is not only NFT. Crypto is prone to it responds to what market supply and demand. That's the basic thing. There are also at marketplace like we have Ghost Market with IO, we have Super Rare, we have a lot of it. We have a lot of places where you can list your NFTs, but important thing is what getting people to place a value on what, see a value in your token, understand, in your token. But it's not NFT is not just limited to what selling your tokens. Like we said earlier, it's a way to provide what easy transfer, easy market, transfer of let's say verification of even identities. You can import your tokens or something. You can import them into game like Sandbox, like I said earlier. So that's the crazy thing about NFTs. So now you can check information. Just like in crypto now. If you need to know anything about crypto, a particular token, you go to CoinGecko, you go to CoinMarketCap, and you start, impute, seal information about the token or something. For NFTs, you can check the information about non-fungible tokens, like I think we have non-fungible. Non-fungible is one, and we still have NFT bank. So we have non-fungible and NFT bank. That's where like you can actually see information about NFT tokens and what NFT banks. It's more like NFT bank. This allows you like tracking information about your own NFT. So that's just the basics. Today it's basically for what basics. That's just what basics of what NFTs. It's more like incorporating e-commerce into blockchain. That's the easiest way to comprehend this. And these things, you have a way of transferring ownership, you have a way of transferring information about a token, you have a way of representing physical assets in the digital world using blockchain technology. And when we're talking about the blockchain technology, the amazing thing about blockchain technology is secure, immutable. So you get to bring this innovation of blockchain technology into something like e-commerce on transfer or arts, gaming world and all of these things. So this is just the basics. These are just the basics of non-fungible. So guys, Austin, can I take questions now? If there are questions, can you please or if you have questions for me or something, can please type them in the chat box. I think there is.
Okay, I think we have some questions. Someone asked, please, do we have to pay gas fees to mint?
Not in all instances. If the likes of now using tokenized tweets or to turn your tweet into an NFT, even the process you do not need to pay any gas fee. You understand? You do not need to pay any gas fee.
Right. Another one said, since different blockchain bracket like Ethereum, BTC, etc. can work as one using NFT and still perform a common transactions, what then determines the outcome?
Sorry?
The question is kind of sketchy. I didn't even understand it. I don't even understand the question. The person that wrote the question, Joseph, can you please rephrase the question?
I think there is another question too. I'm an artist. I do digital and pencil art. How can I turn them to NFTs and sell? Please, I need simple and clear explanations. Well, this is just basic class. Where we in common class, that's why you have to stick, be a part of our Freeton Telegram community. We'll be showing you live,
Yeah, tune in next week. We'll be going deeper to talk about
NFTs.
Yeah, this is just basics.
For an airdrops, you can try and for an airdrops you can check out OpenSea. You can mint and sell there. So that's just for an airdrop. But tune in next week. We'll surely be giving you how to do this. What websites? Like I said, for turning tweets, for turning tweets into NFTs like tokenized tweets, you just have to go to you have to go to tokenized Freeton Telegram, Freeton Africa Telegram. Please drop the link.
A Google form will be dropped where you join the Freeton Telegram link. But between, we'll be having this session, like another session next week, same time. We'll go deeper talking about NFTs and still smart contracts.
Yeah, so that's basically, I think for tokenized tweets, you do not. I minted my first tweet and it's tokenized it until now. Nobody making a bid for it yet. But you do not you still don't use NFTs. You don't use gas in that process. Yeah, it's true. I think majorly when you're using gas is when you are listing, there are instances whereby one-time payment of using gas fee. So it's gas fee shouldn't really be a big issue when we're talking about what non-fungible tokens. They are minimal, understand? So we have another. I've seen a use case on NFT using ETH BTC for gaming during the gaming outcomes are made. Is this a question?
Yeah, sorry. You made mention that price also determines outcome on NFTs. So I'm more concerned because on the paper, on the documentation, the person said, okay, the outcome of this game is determined due to the price of Bitcoin over Ethereum and the likes. So I don't know if you build your solution on NFTs, or maybe you're doing something like a gaming app or something that determines or that will produce an outcome. So what should be your primary factor to? Hope you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Hello. I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Understand your questions. Well, if I heard you correctly, I think you're trying to ask about what determines the prices or value of NFTs, right? Is that what you're asking about?
Yes. All the blockchain to get NFTs as one. Maybe somebody can stake a Bitcoin, somebody can stake an Ethereum, somebody can stake maybe another currency for a particular use case, which is gaming app. So at the end of the day, maybe at the end of the period of time, then an outcome is being made. So what actually determines those outcomes? if at all.
Do you-
Like
do
if
you
you
mean-
can pinpoint some futures that, yes.
Okay, like you mean when people stake different coins for an NFT or
Yes.
something, NFT gaming. Okay, you want to like say how come they're able to stake different tokens, but then it's NFT? Since Bitcoin has its own blockchain,
I mean, I'll
Ethereum,
just, yes, like,
yeah, since Bitcoin has its own blockchain and Ethereum has its own, like how are
of
they able
the,
to stake? How are they able to stake those tokens? Is that what you mean?
no, that's not what I meant anyway. I like the outcome. He mentioned that price also determines the outcome of maybe an NFC transaction. I
Price?
think I had that. Yes, the price,
Nah.
the
The only-
the rise and fall.
Okay, no. Supply. I said just like in crypto, whereby supply and demand. The demand and supply affect the value or price of cryptocurrency. Like now, let me give you an instance. People are expecting that stimulus is coming in, from, I think America or something, and that this is more like a fundamental analysis that, okay, people expect once this stimulus checks comes in, there, like we've seen in previous time, like people are going to go and buy more Bitcoin. Now, this is what happens when people start buying more Bitcoin, just like you've had the likes of Michael Silo, and different big brands buying into Bitcoin. It's the value is going up because there is more demand for the Bitcoin. Now, so if there are demand for a particular NFT, people want to buy. It's more like in the physical world, whereby you go to an exhibition with an art, and people are really interested in the piece of art. Once the first person is up saying bidding with maybe $50, the next person that is quite interested in the product would have to present something higher to attract you to sell what the piece of art. So that's just the concept. Like in NFTs, what determines the prices is what demand and supply and perception. What people feel about the NFTs, the rarity of your art.
Yeah,
So that's the
speculations. We just say speculations.
That's sentiments and emotions.
Yeah.
That's basically the thing.
Sorry, please, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, we hear very, very remarkable tales of people that sold digital art.
Are you still speaking? I think the person is having some
I think
network
it's
issues.
Yeah.
and
You can probably
disconnected.
send
So-
the link, the Google form for.
Yeah. So we've stretched the whole session more than we wanted to. So at this point, I would like to call on Jan Somobed to drop the Google form. So don't rush to fill it up. Everyone has an equal chance to win tons because we are using a site to generate the winners. It picks randomly. So when they drop the form, be careful to fill up the whole field carefully, your Telegram link or username rather, and then your phone number in case you're not on Telegram, so that we can use it to contact you and answer the questions. Just be meticulous, don't rush, take your time. Everyone has his or her own time. So Jan Somobed, go ahead and drop the Google form, please.
Sorry, please, my audio cut off.
Okay. While they drop the Google form for people to fill up, you can ask your question.
All right.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask your questions. I believe people are filling
All
up
right.
the forms.
All right. So,
I think he has broken up again, or his network is still messing up, something like that.
You probably you should just, has the link been dropped for people to check and view or something, so that when it's back.
Yeah, so are you there? Can you just drop the Google form, please? I think he hasn't dropped it yet.
So please, can I ask my question? Please, can I?
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question, please. Just go ahead. You're free to.
All right,
Go ahead.
all right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, sir, I want to know, how does NFT correlate, or how can we bring about the idea of making money through selling of our digital assets? Because I learned that we can sell or we can make money by commercializing our digital assets through NFTs. Though I don't know, maybe you've mentioned that because I came into the class late. Sorry for that. I don't know if you can hear what I said, please.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, so please, what's
Sorry,
your
everyone.
question?
Janson's Google form, he dropped it as a direct message to me. He didn't know that it was on a direct message. So you go ahead and redrop it again now, please. So go ahead, Michael. Sorry to interject.
Yeah, I think I didn't get the question completely. I heard him talking about selling. How do we? I think he's more like asking about how to sell their digital, how to convert their art into something they can sell online, right? Well, if that's the question, the first process is what to mint. The process of minting is to make it available as an NFT. You understand? Once you mint, let's say you're minting on OpenSea. Once you mint, then you list. Once you list, now that's the part where I talked about earlier. Like the big issue is not about minting. It's not the process of turning your heart. Finding the representation for your thing is not hard. Yeah, the bigger aspect, the bigger challenge is what's being able to sell. Now, the influencers in the crypto world or on Twitter, you find it easier to sell. Now, Jack Dorsey is selling his tweets. We've seen a couple of his tweets he's selling at a ridiculous price, and people are buying. I don't know. Probably they want to feel, it's the emotion, right? That's why people buy NFTs. So there are instances whereby people are just suffering on OpenSea. We can copy the link to your product or to your art, post it online for people to see. Post on Twitter, post on crypto platforms where people are much likely to get to see it. So there are people who comes to just like you can open any e-commerce website now, Jumia, and start looking for products. There are people that are what's making those products available. You just go, you say products you like and repeat. That's the same thing for NFTs. It's more like integrating e-commerce into blockchain and art world, the gaming world. It extends to a lot of it. So that's just the concept. It means it's on the marketplace. There are different marketplaces like OpenSea, OpenTrade, like we said earlier. When someone comes there and buy, whoever sees value, the value or they see value in your art or something or a piece, then they come for it. That's just the basic way. So those ridiculous prices that you're seeing online, it's because they have a following. There are people who pay to buy even Austin's tweets. Maybe Austin is to create an NFT now. There are people in Freeton that are going to hop on it because it's kind of influential. So it's easier for influential people right now to cash out on anybody in the NFT piece. But there is equal chance for everybody. It's an open market. That's the major thing about crypto. It's decentralized. It's not like you're placing a reference on Jack Dorsey's or something. It's what people perceive. It's perception of people that are coming into the market. They see your art, they fall in love with it, they like it, they acquire it. So that's just the simple thing.
All right, thank you so much. I really understand now. Thanks so much. You made mention of minting. Minting, you mean creating the token, am I right?
Yeah, we use the word minting, just like the production. That's like the process of the appropriate word is minting. You mint.
Okay. Is there any regulation for the amount of token you can mint?
Well, so far I'm not aware of any regulation right now. I'm not aware of any regulation. So far, there are little gas that you have to pay out in the process of trying to list on the marketplace. So far, you can afford it. Keep minting, keep placing online.
Yeah, and to add, Freeton is actually creating its own, trying to put some things in place to start creating its own NFTs, and there's a group that has been created for it, like the global community. So I will drop that link in Telegram Africa. I will drop the link to the NFT, Freeton NFT, so that anyone that wants to take advantage of Freeton can go ahead. Freeton NFT aspect can still go ahead and join the group and build up from there.
Okay, thank you, sir. The link to the Telegram group,
I'll drop it in Telegram and
Please
Freeton
kindly
Telegram
help share
Africa.
it on.
I said I will drop it in Freeton Africa
Okay, can you
Telegram
help?
group.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay. I don't have the Freeton. I'm not part of the group. That's why. Sorry.
Okay, check in the chats right now. There is a form that was dropped. Kindly fill up the form. It has a link for you to enter Telegram with Freeton Telegram Africa Telegram.
Thanks so much, Young. You guys are great. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think that's all for now.
Yeah, so we've had a really long session today. Quite interesting and quite interactive too.